The Galactic Council Hall was the most powerful place in the galaxy. Inside, hundreds of alien species sat on shining seats made of crystal and metal. The room was massive, shaped like a star, with silver lights blinking along the walls. Every day, the leaders of many worlds gathered here to talk about peace, trade, war, and power. Today felt like a normal day. Until it didn't. Councillor Threx of the Varnak Empire was speaking loudly. The border systems must obey the trade laws. If they do not, we... Suddenly, his voice stopped. Everyone froze. The hall went silent. No alarms rang. No weapons fired. But every being in the chamber felt something heavy, like fear crawling under their skin. A whisper moved through the chamber. A word no one expected. Humans. The large viewing screen at the front of the hall lit up. Ships. Black ships. They were not smooth or shiny like most council fleets. These ships were full of scars, deep metal burns, broken panels, and strange red marks covering their surface. Councillor Velra, a bird-like being from the Alari system, leaned forward and blinked twice. "That's not paint," she said. Another alien zoomed in the camera. Everyone saw it clearly. The red was not paint. It was blood. Real blood. Across the hulls of the human ships, dark red stains had dried in thick patterns. It looked like they had flown through a battlefield and painted their ships with the dead. Gasps filled the air. One being fainted. Another screamed and ran out. Council leader Mizon stood up, shaking. "Identify them." A small alien officer tapped his device with shaking hands. "Ships are Terran-built, human design, coming from the Dead Zone sector." The council chamber erupted into chaos. The Dead Zone. No one returns from there. They're not supposed to exist. A loud boom echoed across the hall. The human ships had arrived just outside the station. 6 ships in total. Each was different in size, but all carried the same symbol, a blood-red circle with a black line through it. No one recognized it. No one understood it. The council called for emergency guards. Fighters launched from the hangars. Defense systems pointed at the human fleet. But the ships didn't attack. They just waited. A message came in. Only audio. Only one voice. "This is Commander Hale of the Terran Fleet. We were invited. We have come." No threats. No greetings. Just that. Council leader Mizon stepped back. They think they were invited. Velra whispered, "What do they mean?" "We sent no message." Then Zather spoke. He was an old council member from a quiet system far away. He rarely spoke, but now his voice broke the silence. "I have seen them before." All eyes turned to him. 10 cycles ago, I was part of a patrol near the death clouds," he said slowly. "Our scanners picked up a strange battle. No survivors, no answers, just wreckage and silence. But something was there, something powerful." He looked at the screen. "These are the same ships. I'm sure of it." The chamber went quiet again. "What do we do?" someone asked. "Do we open fire? Do we let them speak?" The council didn't know. These humans were a mystery. Their ships were from nightmares. Their presence was cold and heavy. No one had ever dared go into the Dead Zone and return. But these humans did, and they brought something dark with them. Suddenly, one of the human ships moved closer. Only a little, a small drift forward. But it was enough. The entire defense grid locked on them. Alarms blared. Weapons charged. Then, another message. This time, video. The human commander appeared on screen. He looked calm. His eyes were cold. His uniform was torn. His face had scars. But his voice was steady. "We do not come for war," he said. "But if war comes, we finish it." Then he said something no one expected. "We came here because one of you called us. One of you sent us a message from this council." We answered, "We are here. Now, tell us why." The screen went black. The room shook, not from weapons, not from engines, but from fear. No one had invited the humans. At least, that's what everyone believed. But if they weren't called, who sent the message? And more importantly, what happens now? The secret team never came back. Their ship floated outside the Valkyrie, untouched. But no one answered the calls. No one responded to commands. Earth tried everything. Hack the controls, force the doors, even send tiny drones inside. Nothing worked. Inside the Valkyrie, it was silent again. No lights, no sounds, just the new warning burned into the wall. We warned you. The United Earth Council was in panic. First, the Valkyrie crew vanished. Now the rescue team too. 12 humans, all gone. Earth's leaders met in secret again. The president spoke softly, but her face was hard. They lied to us, she said. The Galactic Union. They said the galaxy was safe. They said we were welcome. But they knew something. Other leaders nodded. Some looked pale, some angry. They never told us what really happened out there, said General Hakim. We need answers. Now. So Earth sent a message. Public, strong, clear. To the Galactic Union. We demand truth. What happened to our people? What's inside that ship? What is feeding on lies? The message was sent across the galaxy. Everyone saw it. And for the first time, the galaxy looked back with silence. No reply. Not from the Galactic Union. Not from anyone. Until one ship came. It didn't ask for permission. It didn't slow down. It flew straight to Earth orbit and stopped beside the Valkyrie. It was an old ship. Small. Dusty. Inside was one alien. He called himself Tor Valis, an old historian from the Itheri race, a species known for keeping secrets. He asked to speak with Earth's leaders. And they agreed. In a hidden base deep underground, Tor Valis sat at a metal table. His skin was silver blue, his eyes black like a starless night. I don't speak for the Union, he said, but I will speak the truth. Everyone leaned in. Tor looked tired. His voice was soft. You were never supposed to see what's inside the Valkyrie, he began, because what entered that ship was not part of our galaxy anymore. General Hakim stood. What do you mean entered? Something got inside our people. Tor nodded slowly. They are called the Dralith. They were once like us. Curious. Smart. But they went too far. They tried to control minds. Bend truth. Twist reality. And something twisted them back. He paused. They became shadow things. Not fully physical. Not fully thought. They live off belief. They live off lies. Earth scientists whispered among themselves. None had heard of the Dralith. Tor continued. They can't touch you unless you believe them, unless you speak what they want you to think. That's why your people wrote, do not speak. Words are doors to them. They feed on lies, the president said quietly. Tor nodded. Yes, lies open them. Belief gives them shape. The room went cold. President, why didn't the Galactic Union warn us? Tor's eyes turned darker. Because they're afraid. The Draleth were sealed away, long ago, in parts of space where no one travels. But something changed. A crack opened. The Union saw your kind, bold, fearless, full of belief. And they feared you might wake the sleeping dark. But they still invited us, General Hakim growled. Tor looked away. Some in the Union wanted to use you. Send you into the dark places. See what would happen. If you survived, they'd learn something. If you died, they'd lose nothing. Earth's leaders sat in stunned silence. They had been used, tricked, sent into something worse than death. The president leaned forward. How do we fight this? How do we protect Earth? Tor stood. Close the Valkyrie. Never speak of it. Seal it in silence. and never trust the Union again. But as he turned to leave, an alarm blared. Everyone froze. A message was coming in, but not from the stars. It was from inside the Valkyrie. One voice. Human. Broken. Weak. This is Captain Lane. We made contact. Not all of us are gone. I'm still here. Then static. The room exploded with noise. Captain Lane. He's alive. Is this real? But Torvallis didn't smile. He looked at the screen. Then at the leaders. That is not your captain, he said coldly. That is how it begins. The council made its decision in panic. Send a warning, Leader Mizon ordered. Tell the humans to leave council space. If they don't, we'll destroy them. Many council members agreed. Others stayed quiet, unsure. Velra looked uneasy. What if we're making a mistake? Harlan growled. The mistake was letting them get this close. Zathar stood, voice shaking with age, but filled with warning. No, the mistake is thinking they're like us. But no one listened to him. Minutes later, a message was sent to the humans. Leave now or face full destruction. The reply came quickly. Just 3 words. We are waiting. No threat. No fear. Just a reply that sounded like a challenge. The council activated every defense system around the chamber station. Hundreds of drone ships, heavy plasma turrets, and shield barriers lit up like stars. This space station was the heart of the galaxy's power. No one could touch it. At least that's what they believed. The human ships didn't move. They just floated outside, silent, still, and soaked in dried blood. Inside the human flagship, Commander Hale watched the council's response without blinking. Around him, his crew stood at attention. Not one of them looked nervous. Not one looked surprised. Hale turned to his second-in-command, a woman named Rice. Did they answer? They sent a threat, Rice said. Told us to leave. Hale didn't smile. They always do. Rice nodded. What now? We wait, he said. They'll show their true face soon. Back in the council chamber, the mood was turning darker. Velra held the data file the humans had sent earlier. It had private messages, proof that someone had contacted them. She showed it to Mizon. We need to talk about this, she said. Look, these logs are real. Someone here called them. And now we're pretending they didn't. Mizon didn't answer. He was staring at his own name on the file. Velra's eyes widened. It was you. No, Mizon said quickly. It wasn't. I never spoke to them. But this message came from your code line, Velra said. From your office. I said it wasn't me. Mizon shouted. Zathar spoke again. It doesn't matter who called them. What matters is that they're here. And we're about to do something we can't undo. Counselor Harlan stood and slammed both fists on the table. No more talk. Power up the cannons. Fire a warning shot. Outside, the council station's main cannon glowed with red light. Inside the human ship, alarms started to hum. They're charging a weapon, Rice said. Hale nodded slowly. Just as expected. Back at the station, the cannon fired. A huge beam of energy burst out of the station and flew past the lead human ship, just missing it on purpose. It was meant to scare them. It didn't work. The human ships didn't move. They didn't respond. But something else happened. The stars around the council station dimmed, just slightly. Velra looked up, confused. What just happened? Zathar's skin turned pale. That was not from us. The council's scanners went wild. Unknown energy patterns were forming around the station. The gravity readings shifted. Space itself was bending. Then the humans replied. A message blinked onto the main screen. Mistake confirmed. Protocol red begins. Before the council could respond, 2 of their outer drone ships exploded. No weapon had touched them. They just tore apart, like something invisible had sliced through them. Panic broke out inside the council chamber. Shut down the cannon. Raise the shields. Who gave the order to fire? Mizun shouted, "We need to talk to them. Get them back on the line." Velret turned to Zathar. "What is Protocol Red?" Zathar answered with a whisper, "Retribution." More drone ships exploded outside the station, but still, the human ships didn't fire. They just stayed where they were, watching, waiting. It wasn't just war they had brought. It was judgment. Inside their ship, Commander Hale watched the explosions calmly. "They fired first," Rice said, "just like we thought." Hale looked at the council station. "Now they'll listen." The image from the Valkyrie haunted Earth. It wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a promise. The shadows in the picture were real. Earth's skies were turning black. Buildings began to shake. People felt something in the air. Something wrong. Something they couldn't explain. The message spread like fire. "We are coming. Your beliefs are ours now." President Hale watched as the news broke across Earth's networks. Fear spread. Panic grew. People in every city started to whisper the same things. "It's coming. The truth is coming." General Hakim was in the war room, staring at the dark screen. His hands clenched into fists. "Do we shoot?" he asked. The room was filled with leaders, military officials, and scientists. They had tried everything. They had no answers. Torvalis stood in the corner. His eyes were deep with sadness. "No, you can't shoot what isn't fully there," he said quietly. "Then what do we do?" the president asked, frustration in her voice. "We can't just wait for Earth to fall apart." Tor slowly turned toward the screen, where the image of Earth burning still flickered. "There is only one way to stop it." The room fell silent. Tor looked at each of them. His voice dropped lower. "You must stop believing." "What?" President Hale asked, confused. "You must stop believing in the lies. The Dralith, they live on belief. If you stop believing, they lose power." General Hakim shook his head. "That's impossible. We've all seen the images. We felt it. People are already losing their minds." "Then you must make them stop," Tor said. "Make them forget. Because if you don't, the Draleth will be free." The truth hit hard. No one knew how to stop belief. It wasn't something you could shut off. It was inside people. It was everywhere. It was the stories they told, the hopes they had, the very dreams that made them human. But the Dralith fed on those things. It was like asking Earth to stop thinking. The countdown to destruction kept ticking. It was only 4 hours before the Valkyrie would reach Earth's atmosphere. The military was ready. The weapons were locked. But Earth wasn't prepared for what came next. A voice. Just one voice. It was Captain Lane. His voice. "Don't do it," he whispered, echoing through Earth's channels. People froze. I don't remember, but I can hear them now." "I see them," Lane said, his voice shaking. "They're not just shadows. They're the truth. The truth you never wanted to know. The truth you never could see." President Hale's heart skipped a beat. "What are you saying? Lane, where are you? Where are you?" But Lane didn't answer. The only sound was the crackle of static. Then came the screams. Not from the speakers, but from the people. Earth's cities erupted into chaos. One by one, entire populations began to lose their minds. People couldn't stop believing. They ran through the streets, shouting, "The truth is here." Children cried, their eyes wide with fear. Adults fought with each other, torn by visions they couldn't explain. The Draleth were feeding. Their hunger was growing. And it wasn't just the people in the cities. The entire world began to shift, as if the land itself was breathing, changing, becoming something it was never meant to be. General Hakim turned to Tor. "You said we could stop it. You said we just needed to stop believing." Tor's face was hard. "You can't stop it now. The truth is here. And once it is inside, it never leaves." Outside the war room, More screams echoed through the halls. The president clenched her fists. So we're doomed. Tor didn't answer. He couldn't. The Draleth were more than just creatures. They were ideas. They were thoughts. And now, they were real. The Valkyrie was close. Its dark shape loomed larger in the sky. And then, the ground shook. Not from a bomb. Not from an explosion. It was something worse. The ground trembled as if reality itself was bending. The Draleth were pulling on everything. On the truth. On the lies. On the very beliefs that held the world together. People stopped running. They stopped screaming. They stood still, eyes wide open, as if waiting for something. Waiting for the truth to tear everything apart. The council's command station was shaking. Not from weapons. From fear. Outside, 20 human warships hovered in perfect silence. Each one was dark, covered in scars, their hulls marked with strange symbols that no one in the council could read. Some of the symbols looked ancient. Others looked like warnings. Inside the council chamber, panic had replaced pride. "We need help," Harlan shouted. "Call in every fleet from the inner ring." "They won't make it in time," Velra said, her voice cold. "And even if they do, they've never faced something like this." Zathor stood silently, watching the display screen. One of the ships, the largest human vessel, was now slowly moving forward. The ship's name appeared on the scanners. Hessa's Judgment. Velra whispered, "That can't be a real name." Zathor replied, "It's not just a name. It's a promise." Inside the Judgment, Commander Hale stood in front of a glass screen showing the council's defenses. He raised one hand. "Show them." Reyes nodded. A new signal was sent, but this time it didn't go to the council station. It went to deep space. All across the stars, dozens of hidden human ships, silent, cloaked, and waiting, began to respond. The council's long-range sensors lit up with warnings. New contacts appearing. A defense AI shouted. "Where?" Velra asked. The AI replied, "Everywhere. From behind moons. From inside gas giants. From beneath asteroid fields. Ships, hundreds of them. The Judgment Fleet, more powerful than anything the Council had ever seen. Built in the dark corners of space, forged from dead civilizations, enhanced with tech no one had shared with the galaxy. Every ship had been hidden. Until now. Council leader Misen stared at the screen, his voice cracking. "How is this possible?" Resic, the quiet alien who had watched everything, finally spoke. "Because while we were celebrating peace, they were preparing for war." The chamber fell silent. Again, just like before. No one had answers. Velra turned to Zathor. "Why didn't we see this coming?" Zathor's eyes were heavy. "Because we stopped listening to fear. And fear is a warning." The Council tried sending another message to the humans, but this time no reply came. Not yet. Instead, the Judgment Fleet slowly moved in. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They surrounded the Council station, like a noose. Inside the human flagship, Commander Hale spoke quietly. "We waited for them to change. They didn't. Now we show them who we are." Reyes looked at him. "Do we engage?" "Not yet," Hale said. "They need to see, not just our ships, but our reason." Reyes pressed a button. Suddenly, a third message appeared on the Council's screen. This one was different. Not text, not video. It was images. Dozens of them. Photos and recordings from across the dead zone. They showed what the humans have faced. The giant monsters that fed on stars. The black storms that erased memory. The ruins of lost species buried under endless war. And finally, images of what the humans had built. Fortresses carved into moons. Weapons made from things not even the Council understood. And soldiers, thousands of them, with no fear in their eyes, because they had already died once. Velra's voice shook. These people, they didn't just survive the worst place in the galaxy. Zathar nodded. They became part of it. Counselor Harlan whispered, "We can't fight that." For once, no one argued. Resic stood slowly. "They are here to change the rules. And if we don't listen..." His sentence didn't finish. Because just then, every light in the council station flickered. A message flashed again. "One last chance. Surrender the traitor who called us, or face total silence." Maizen's hands shook. His name was still on the data log. But he wasn't alone. Other names had also appeared. High-level counselors who had tried to trade secrets, who had reached out to the humans in secret years ago, hoping for power. And now, the price had arrived. Zathar looked at Maizen. "What will you do?" The council leader looked around. He saw fear, shame, silence. Then he stood and said, "Bring the traitors forward." The council's chamber fell into a deep, suffocating silence. Maizen stood at the center of the room, facing the rest of the council members. The traitors had been named. Names that had once been hidden in dark corners of the galaxy, now brought into the light. Velra couldn't believe it. This can't be real. But it was. The traitors were high-ranking members of the council. They had made secret deals with the humans. They had promised power, technology, and protection in exchange for their loyalty. And now, the humans had come to collect. Zathar, who had been watching quietly, finally spoke. They thought they could control them. But the humans, they don't work like that. Maizen's voice cracked. "We're running out of time. We have to make a decision." Harlan, still angry, slammed his fist on the table. "We should have never trusted them. Look at what they've done." But there was no time for blame now. The human ships were closing in. The Judgment Fleet had encircled the Council's station like a wall of iron, and the pressure was mounting. Inside the flagship, Commander Hale stood with his arms crossed, watching the station carefully. His eyes were cold, calculating. He had been prepared for this moment for a long time. Rice stood beside him, watching the same screen. "Are they ready?" Hale nodded. "They've waited long enough." The human fleet began to move. Slowly, deliberately, they began to align themselves in a perfect formation, blocking every possible escape route for the Council. "We're about to make history," Rice said, her voice calm but filled with a hint of anticipation. "History," Hale repeated quietly. "Or the end of it." Back in the council chamber, panic was starting to spread. "Maizen," Velra shouted, "we need to make contact. Now." But Maizen's face was pale. He stared at the screen, at the Judgment Fleet, and his mind raced. There was no escaping now. The humans had them trapped. Zathar placed a hand on Maizen's shoulder. "It's not about fighting anymore. It's about survival. Surrender. We're not weak." Maizen spat, shaking off Zathar's touch. "We still have power. We can win this." "No, Maizen," Velra said softly. "You're wrong. They have us. We're just stalling." Harlan's eyes were wide with fear. "What are we going to do? We can't face them." "I know," Maizen whispered, the weight of his decision crushing him. "But we still have one thing they don't understand." Velra turned to him, confusion in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" Maizen's lips twisted into a cold, bitter smile. "The final piece." Without warning, he turned to the central control console and began typing furiously. The others watched, unsure of what he was doing. "What are you doing?" Velra demanded. Maizen didn't look up. "We're going to give them a taste of their own medicine." Harlan's eyes widened. "You can't be serious. You're not thinking about using that." But Maizen's finger hovered over the final key. "If we die, we die fighting. But we'll make sure they remember who we were." Outside, the human ships began to move again. But this time, they weren't just positioning themselves. They were getting ready for something. The ships hummed with a low, almost vibrating energy. Inside the human flagship, Hale's eyes flickered with an unreadable emotion. He turned to Reyes. "It's time." The final message was sent. "We've given you a choice. Now, the choice is ours." The Council's ships were locked in place. There was no escape. Then the screen went black. No warning, no signal, just complete, eerie silence. Misen stared at the blank screen in horror. What's happening? The lights in the chamber flickered and went out. All of a sudden, the room was plunged into darkness. "No," Velra cried. "What have you done?" But Misen didn't answer. He looked down at the control panel. His hands shook. The final piece, the last card to play, was in motion, and he could already hear the hum. A humming noise was growing louder and louder, filling the chamber, coming from all around them. Then the silence broke. Boom! The explosion was felt all over the station. It wasn't a blast from weapons. It was a wave of energy, like the force of a collapsing star. It tore through the station's systems. Lights burst into flames. Computers sparked and shorted out. The entire place shook like a dying animal. Zathar stumbled, trying to keep his balance. "What have you done?" But Misen only looked forward, his eyes wide with fear and excitement. I gave them something they didn't expect." The wave passed, and in the wake of it, the screen flickered back to life. And there on the screen was a face. The face of a human. Calm, cold, unflinching. It was Hale. "We warned you." The Council had made its final mistake. The Galactic Council chamber stayed silent for a long time after the humans' message ended. No one moved. No one spoke. They just stared at the dark screen, where the human commander's face had disappeared a few seconds ago. His voice still echoed in their minds. "We were called. We came." Council leader Misen looked around slowly. Did anyone here contact the humans? One by one, the council members shook their heads. Some looked confused. Others looked scared. "No," said Velra. "We never sent them a message. We've never even spoken to humans before." Then a voice from the back said quietly, "They came from the dead zone." Everyone turned to see who spoke. It was Zathar. He was old, slow, and from a forgotten world called Farnus 6. Most council members didn't even listen when he spoke, but now they all leaned in. Zathar stood up, his hands shaking slightly. "I saw them," he said, 10 cycles ago." There were gasps. No one had ever returned from the dead zone. Ships went in, but never came back. The dead zone was a massive part of space surrounded by strange energy storms, broken planets, and the remains of dead civilizations. It was called a graveyard of stars. Zathar continued. "My ship was patrolling near the edge. We were watching a trade route that led to the outer colonies. Then, we saw something strange. Wreckage. Hundreds of ships torn apart. Some were council ships, some were unknown." Everyone listened. "We didn't know what had happened," he said. "There was no sign of weapons, no energy trails, just destruction everywhere. Silent, like death had passed through." He paused. "But something moved in the darkness. I remember a shadow. Large, silent, watching us." Councillor Velra's feathers twitched. "Why didn't you report this before?" "I did," Zathar said. "The report was buried. Someone erased the files, said it was just a malfunction." The chamber filled with quiet fear. Now it made sense. The humans didn't just come from the dead zone. They survived it. And not just survived. They returned stronger, scarier, and covered in blood. Council leader Misen looked at the viewing screen again. Why would someone bury Zathar's report? "Maybe," said Velra, "someone knew what was inside the dead zone and didn't want the rest of us to find out." An idea spread through the chamber like fire. What if someone in the council had known about the humans long ago? What if someone did send a message? In the shadows of the chamber, a small alien named Resic sat silently. He was from a minor race, Not very powerful, not very rich. But his eyes watched carefully. His claws tapped the table slowly. He knew something, but he stayed quiet. The other council members began to argue. We can't let them land. They're already here. Why didn't our sensors see them before? Because, said Velra, they came through the death clouds. Our sensors don't work in that part of space. Councillor Harlan, a large creature with 4 arms, stood and slammed a fist on the table. I say we open fire now, before they get closer. No, shouted Zathar. You don't understand. If they survive that place, then simple weapons won't stop them. Silence returned. Then something even stranger happened. The human ships sent a second message, not a voice, not a video. It was a data file. The file contained logs, coordinates, names. Some council members in the chamber turned pale. Their names were in the file. Private messages, secret orders, hidden trade deals with unknown colonies. The humans had proof. Proof that someone from the council had sent them a message. Council leader Mizan stared at the data. This is dangerous, he whispered. Velra spoke again. If they can get into our private systems, they can do more than just fight. They can outsmart us. Zathar added, they already have. Panic began to grow. But one question burned in every mind. Why did the humans wait so long to come? Resic finally stood. His voice was soft, but cold. Maybe, he said, they were not ready before. Everyone turned to him. Maybe they were building something. Preparing. Watching. Waiting for the right time to return. Council leader Mizan asked, and what do they want now? Resic looked at the screen. To talk. The chamber fell silent once more. Ships from the dead zone were now parked outside the council's gates. Ships that bled. Ships that carried war scars. Ships piloted by humans, creatures no one truly knew, but everyone feared.